Okay, perfect. Let's get started. So what we have there is the saying truck drivers travel a certain distance and have a rest before traveling further. A driver kept record of the distance he traveled in kilometers on 8 trips and the amount of time he rested in minutes before he continued his journey. The information is given in the table below. Okay, so on the X, we have the distance traveled, and on the Y, we have the amount of rest time in minutes. Okay, now they're saying determine the equation of the least squares regression line for the data. Okay, so this we need a calculator and we need to go to our stat mode. Right, please don't try to do this manually. You will take quite a lot of time trying to figure out some answers, and you might even make a few mistakes. So the calculator can find your A value, can also find your B. So please input this in the calculator and just double check the answers with me. Right. Okay, I'll give you just under a minute to plug that information into the calculator, and then we'll check our answers shortly. Okay, I hope you guys have done this. So you've plugged these answers in your, or the points in your calculator. My A, I'm getting it as negative 23,846. And then I'm getting B as 0,227. This means that my equation will be A plus BX, which is negative 23,846 plus 0,23 with an X. Hope we're all together there. Then the next question, if a truck driver traveled 550 kilometers, predict the amount of time in minutes that he should rest before continuing his journey. So we'll use our equation and say y is equal to negative 23, let me say 85, converted to 2 decimal places, plus 0,23 into 550. Okay, and that's just calculator work. And that should give you 1,102,65. Right? Now write down the correlation coefficient for the data. We know the correlation coefficient is R. This we get on our calculators. And your calculator should give you 0,98. And you get a mark for that. Now, interpret your answer in 1.3 or to question 1.3, right? What do we know about R being 0,98? Remember on the scale, on the summaries that I gave you when we started, I did say that this would be a very strong positive correlation. Okay. So there are questions in the chat. Yes, please leave your answer correct to 2 decimal places. So the answer that we leave correct to 2 decimal places must be the final answer. The one before, I usually go as far as 5 decimal places for accuracy's sake, but the final answer will be correct to 2 decimal places. Okay, now moving on. Let me see if I can go back to my screen. There we go. At each stop, the truck driver spent money buying food and other refreshments. The amount spent in rent is given in the table below, right? Calculate the mean amount of money he spent at each stop, right? So that shouldn't be a problem at all. The calculator can do this for us. Otherwise, we can do it ourselves manually, because we know that the mean would be the average. So that would simply mean that we have x bar is equal to the sum, right, of n over the sum of xi, sorry, over n, right? Meaning that we just need to add everything up, which would be, we can rely on our calculator for that. That should be 1,200 divided by 8. And that should give you 150. Okay. Next question, calculate the standard deviation for the data. That shouldn't be a problem. We know the standard deviation is this symbol here, and that should give you 50, 50. Rely on your calculator for that. Okay, moving on. At how many stops did the driver spend an amount that was less than 1 standard deviation below the mean? So that's very important. Amount that was less, right, than 1 standard deviation below the mean. Okay, let's interpret that mathematically. What does that even mean? That simply means we have our mean minus our standard deviation, because we want it to be amount that was less than 1 standard deviation below the mean. That's why we're subtracting. Then we're going to say 150 minus 50, 50. Then what will that give us? That'll give us 99,50. Okay, then we just need to interpret that. 99,50, that will only be 1 store. So we can say at 1 stop. Okay, I hope that is clear. Now moving on. At a certain school, the staff committee wanted to determine how many glasses of water the staff members drank during a school day. All teachers present on a specific day were interviewed. The information is shown in the table below. Okay. Now, number of glasses of drinking water per day, and then number of staff members. Okay. And saying complete the cumulative frequency column provided in the table in the answer book. All right. So I'll just add it here. Yes, dear.
There's a hand there from Mama Kwezi.
All right, okay. I think if you can send a request for them to unmute. Yes, Mama Kwezi, can you with your question? You can unmute yourself and ask your question, Nomakwezi.
Hi, sir, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Sir, I wanted to ask the question in 1.3 that if we are looking for the equation, do we have to leave our answers into decimal places? Like for example, when we got A as negative 23,846, can we simply leave it at negative 23,85? Or we
Yeah,
don't have to?
that's perfect. So your final answer must in fact be corrected to decimal places, right? So
Okay.
I can just do this thing. 8, 5, 3. That's why
Okay, sir.
in 1.2 I used it as negative 23,85, corrected to decimal places. But before then, try to make it as accurate as possible.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome.
Is Khomotso also Tshepo?
Okay, they can go ahead. Yes, Omoto, go ahead with your question.
Sir,
Yes, Omoto.
can you please cause like I didn't understand 1.5.3. Can you please explain it more thoroughly? Because like I didn't understand.
Okay, 1.5.3.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem at all. So we just need to understand the question. And the question is saying, right, at how many stops did the driver spend an amount that was less than 1 standard deviation below the mean? So below means under, right? Below the
Okay.
mean, under the mean. Okay, so if we are saying under the mean, it means that we have to subtract the standard deviation from the mean. An amount that was less than 1 standard deviation below. So the standard deviation is the one that is below the mean. I don't know if I'm making sense there.
Yeah.
Now,
Okay. Like, can you please make okay?
yeah,
Okay. Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you go
Can you
ahead
please
first.
like make okay? Can you please make like an example, like another example, like, but the question must be relative to what you're saying, so that I can understand more better.
Okay, let me see what I can say. Okay, I'm gonna try and rephrase the question. Maybe it'll make more sense that way. So if we're saying, let me do this. So an amount that was less than, let's look at that part. So less means what? Means we need to subtract, isn't it? Let's break down the question. I think if we break it down, we'll be able to understand it. So less we subtract, right? 1 standard deviation. So what are we subtracting? We are subtracting a standard deviation. Okay, but where are we subtracting the standard deviation from? If you understand this part, we're saying less, we subtract. What are we subtracting? The standard deviation. From where?
From the mean.
From the mean. That's why I can put the mean there, because the standard deviation is being subtracted from the mean.
Okay, yeah, it makes sense now. Yeah, it makes sense.
Makes sense. Perfect. Now, once you have something like that, that's just the formula. You substitute the mean, which we found, and the standard deviation, which we found from the calculator. Okay, then you'll get an answer of 99.50. Right? If you then go to your calculator, you'll see that there's only one answer that is less than 99.50, which is the 50.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Perfect. Okay, then I think we can move
Wait,
on.
Khomotso also Tshepo?
Okay, you can put them on mute. It's Mahadi,
Yes, Tshepo.
okay, Mahadi, you can go ahead with your question. Please unmute yourself.
So I was the question that the lesson is. So we definitely answered no.
Mahadi, we really can't hear you. Is it only on my side?
I also
So
can hear.
Yeah, Mohadi, you are muffled. It sounds like there's something wrong with your microphone. Try go ahead once more. Otherwise, I'm going to ask you to ask your question in the chat.
Okay, sir, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
I was about to say, you answered me when the last person who asked you the question was the very same question that I was going to ask. So definitely you answered me. I was not understanding 1.5.3. So now I understand. It's okay.
Okay, all right, perfect, awesome. Okay, I'm glad that we all understand each other. Okay, cool stuff. Let's try to move on quickly. So we're now on question 2. They're saying at a certain school, the staff committee, so that's the glasses of water question, and they said complete the cumulative frequency column provided in the table in the answer book. All right, that shouldn't be a problem. We know first we are going to have 5, and then we are going to have 20 because it's 5 plus 15, 20 plus 13, which will give you 33, 33 plus 5, which will give you 38, and then 38 plus 2, which has to give you 40. Okay? Then just like that, we are done. Now, how many staff members were interviewed? This is a very easy question because we just take the final answer from our cumulative frequency column. So it means that the answer will be 40. Now, how many staff members drank fewer than 6 glasses of water during a school day? So fewer than 6 must be on this row here. Just a second, please. So we're looking at this row here because we're not including the 6. So it is less than 6. Then we just have to count the cumulative frequency of this row. So our answer is simply going to be 33. Hope we're all clear there. Now, 2.4. The staff committee observed that K teachers were absent on the day of the interviews. It was found that half of these K teachers drank from 0 to fewer than 2, right? So they gave us that interval there, glasses of water per day, while the remainder of them drank from 4 to fewer than 6 glasses of water per day. When these K teachers are included in the data, the estimated mean is 4 glasses of water per staff member per day. How many teachers were absent on the day of the interviews? Okay, so I don't think that's a problem at all. What we're going to do is we're going to try and find the mean. All right, so let's set it up. So we can say X bar is equal to, let's check. Just want to go back up and just zoom out a little bit. Okay, so we are going to say this will be 1 times, right? Times what? Times 5, but plus K over 2. When we close our bracket, then we'll say plus, let's go back up. And that'll be 3 over 15. Sorry, 3 times 15. Then plus 5 times, because remember we are considering the midpoint. 5 times 13 plus K over 2. I know this one is a bit of a process, but we still can do it. Plus 7 times 5, and plus 9 times 2. Then this will all b over 40 plus k, right? If you are lost there, remember all we are doing is we are taking the midpoint of our class and we are multiplying it by the number of staff members. Okay. Now, we know that the estimated mean is 4, meaning that I can immediately say this is equal to 4. Let me just zoom out a little bit. I know it's a long calculation. The reason I'm equating it to 4 is because they told us that the estimated mean is 4. Now it's just a matter of simplifying this. It's purely mathematical now. So 5 plus k over 2 plus 45 plus 65 plus 5k over 2 plus 35 plus 18. Then this must be equal to 160 plus 4k. And then if we clean it up, we're going to have 3k plus 168 is equal to 160 plus 4k. And you can clean it up even further and say that k is equal to 8. Right. Now, if that one is confusing, there is an alternative way where you can just take the midpoint, multiply it by the number of staff members. Maybe let me just do it here. I think maybe everyone's going to like this one. So we can say that x bar is equal to the midpoint of the first class, which is 1, multiplied by 5, then plus 3 times 15. Just a second, please. I don't know why this thing is switching off. 3 times 15 plus 13 times 5 plus 5 times 7 plus 2 times 9. Right. And then you can say this is over 40. Okay, now you are going to get a mean of 4,2. Now, once you have that mean of 4,2, what you're going to do is you are going to take this mean and subtract 4 from it. Okay, because that's what they gave us, and you are going to get 0,2. So 0,2 multiplied by 40, that will also give you 8 teachers. Which is exactly what we have there as well.
Yes, Epan?
Yes, dear.
Before you proceed to the next question, there are some questions in the chat there.
Okay, let me just take a look. Okay, so I will share which paper it is once I'm done working on it, just so it doesn't cause a bit of a distraction. That's why I'm not answering that question, but I will definitely give you the link to the paper if you guys don't already have it.
There's one from Neo Ranaka also saying, will you please explain how we came about with the k over 2?
Okay, all right. So that one can be a little bit more challenging and it will take quite a bit of time to explain the k. So I think the easiest one to go about it, to go about the question is look at the midpoint multiplied by the number of members. So rather use this formula here because that can be quite long to understand. So rather use the mean here by saying the midpoint of the first class is 1 multiplied by the number of staff members plus 3, which is the midpoint of the second class, multiplied by the number of staff members, which is 15, and just keep doing that and dividing by the total, which is 40. So rather use that one so that there isn't confusion. Because remember with the paper, there are maybe 3 or 4 solutions to a problem. So any of these two is acceptable. So go for the easier one, which is the second one that I did.
It's a
Yes, dear?
I would like to ask everyone, if you have a question, please be specific. I'm seeing one here, it says, can you please explain, say, we're not so sure which part you're asking there. So if you have a question, I do say, can you please explain 1.2 or, for an example, 1.8 and which part there? Or if you want the whole question to be explained, please do make mention of that.
Thank you so much, dear. Absolutely. It does help me a lot with the explanations. Thank you so much, dear. Okay, but I think everyone is covered for now, right?
There's another one here. So it says, I didn't get the question, so I'm lost. One is saying, please break down the question. We're not so sure which question you are referring to, guys.
I'm not seeing those questions in my chat. Oh, I see. Okay. I'm seeing them in the chat now. Yeah, guys, please be specific to the questions that you want me to help you out with. So to Kia, the question that we just did is it was 2.4, asking how many teachers were absent on the day of the interviews. So I did two methods with the K, and I also did the alternative method, which is the easier one in green, to find the number of teachers. Right. So I did it both ways. That should be sufficient. If you're still not understanding, I'd suggest that you just rewatch the recording, because we are running out of time and there's still quite a lot to do. We only have today and Wednesday to complete this paper. But I have done it twice, that question. So I am going to move on.
Okay.
Yes, dear?
Sirimo will just ask now for you to explain the second method, maybe to go over it one more time.
So the second method, that's not a problem. I can quickly just tell you. So this is just the midpoint of your class, midpoint of class multiplied by number of staff members. So if you look at this first row, what's the midpoint of 0 and 2? It is 1. What's the number of staff members? It's 5. That's why we have 1 times 5. Okay. Now, the second part, we said the midpoint of 2 and 4 is going to be 3 multiplied by the number of staff members, which will give you 45. And then the next one, the midpoint is 5 multiplied by 13, so forth. And that's how we go about it. Right, and then you divide by 40, because 40 is the total number of educators that we have. Then you simply say, you have a new mean, which is 4,2. Then you subtract the old mean that they gave you. Right, to get the difference, which is 0,2, you multiply it by the total number of teachers, and that will give you 8 teachers. Okay. Now, question 3. In the figure, L has those coordinates -4 and 1, S 4 and 5, N -2 -3. Those are the vertices of a triangle having angle L of SLN equals to 90 degrees. So it means that LN is perpendicular to LS, then LN intersects the x-axis at K. Okay. Now, that shouldn't be too much of a problem. It's a very easy diagram. They're saying calculate the length of SL. Remember, guys, in your matric paper, you are going to get grade 11 questions, right? Please do practice those. Those are free marks. The length of SL, that'll be quite easy. We can simply say that SL is equal to, this is there on the formula sheet. So x2 minus x1 all squared plus y2 minus y1 all squared. Don't forget to square them. 4 plus 4 squared plus 5 minus 1 all squared. Right. Calculator work. And this should give you 64, 16 root of 80, which is 4 root 5. Easy 2 marks there. Now the gradient of Sn, it shouldn't be too much. M is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, which is equal to 5 plus 3 over 4 plus 2, which will give you 4 over 3. Okay, no questions. I think we're still fine there. Now calculate the size of theta, the angle of inclination. That's quite easy. We know we can use tan of theta is equal to m, meaning that theta is equal to shift tan of 4 over 3. Then theta will be equal to, just punch that into the calculator, you should be getting 53,13 degrees. Now calculate the size of angle N of LNS. So we want this angle now. All right, so what I'm going to do is I am going to extend this line here, make it parallel, right? Or just introduce a line parallel to the x-axis, right? I know that this angle here, maybe let me call it beta, right? How can I find beta? For me to find beta, I need to use Ln. Then I can also find this angle here, right? I know that is theta. Why is it theta? Because those are corresponding angles. So this angle corresponds to that angle there. Okay, now it will be easy for me to find, let me call this guy alpha. I know that alpha is equal to beta minus theta. So let's find beta first. Okay, so for us to find beta, we have to find the gradient. So 1 plus 4 minus 4 plus 2. 1 plus 3 is 4. 1 plus 3 over minus 4 plus 2, which gives us minus 2 as our gradient. Now, we know that tan of beta is equal to minus 2, so beta is equal to, going to get a negative, and then we make it positive, so we should be getting 116,57. That is for beta. Now, for us to conclude, we'll say 116,57 minus theta that we have as 53,1. 53,13. And then our alpha will give us 63,44 degrees. And we are done. Okay, I'm seeing in the chat, somebody saying, would I be wrong if I use trig ratios to find the angle? I don't think trig ratios will help you out because you don't have a right angled triangle for you to find alpha. So the challenge is we don't have this angle here. So if you have this angle, then you definitely can. Or did they give us that angle? I don't think they did. Alternatively, what you can do is you can find the distances and then use trig ratios. So if you have distance of Sn, then you can use, this will be opposite and hypotenuse, you can use sine of alpha. Yeah, so that will work. Trig ratios will also work. That's perfectly fine, only because we have a 90-degree triangle. If it wasn't for this 90-degree there, then we couldn't use trig ratios. But I'm happy with trig ratios. I see that it does work out. Okay, so somebody's asking me to repeat 3.4. I'll quickly go over it just for the sake of time. They want us to find this angle alpha, right? And what we have to do is we are introducing our own x-axis. This is our own x-axis that we are introducing. And on that x-axis, we know that we can calculate beta if this is beta, right? So angle in, there will be beta. So this whole angle is going to be beta. Now, I'm saying that beta is equal to theta plus alpha. But we are not looking for beta. We want to find alpha ultimately. So we'll say beta is equal to theta. Sorry, let me just go back. Beta minus theta is equal to alpha. Theta we already have. We calculated it in one of the previous questions. And we can use corresponding angle to put it there. Now, beta would be easy because beta would be the gradient. Remember, tan of beta is the gradient. That is why I said tan of beta is equal to -2. Now, once you have -2, you just need to find the angle, then substitute it back. Substitute beta there and theta, subtract theta from beta, you are going to get alpha as 63,44. Alternatively, you can use trig ratios because you did calculate SL, which gave you 4√5. Then you can also calculate SN, the distance of SN, because you have all those points. And then once you have that, you do have a triangle that would look like this, 90 degrees there, in the L here, and S here. We said this is 4√5. This you would have calculated using the distance, and what you're looking for is this angle. So you can use opposite over hypotenuse to find that angle, and that should work. The sine rule will also work. There are many ways to solve this question. Okay, now moving on. Determine the equation of the line which passes through L is?
Mtagozo has a hand up there.
Okay, can help them unmute. And also you can go ahead with the question.
Minier,
Also, please go ahead.
Minier, I found the answer. It's fine.
Okay, all right, perfect.
Yes.
All right, cool stuff. So, yeah, we were just saying we need to determine the equation of the line which passes through L and parallel to SN. So parallel to SN passes through L. So that's the case. Let me just clean this up a little bit. We know it must be parallel to Sn. Yes. Do we have the gradient of Sn? I don't think we've calculated the gradient of that. Oh, have we? Just check. No, we have. We do have the gradient, which is 4/3. So I'm simply going to say m is equal to 4/3. Now I'm going to use y minus y1 is equal to m into x minus x1. So y minus, which point? Y minus 1 is equal to 4/3 into x plus 4. Then y is equal to 4/3x and plus 16/3 plus 3/3, 19/3. And that would be the equation. Okay, now moving on, calculate the area of triangle LSN. That shouldn't be too much. We know area of a triangle, half of the base multiplied by perpendicular height. So half. Now, I'm going to say maybe my base is 4√5. Remember, it's multiplication. It doesn't matter as long as I have a base and a height. But what I used is SL, meaning that I need to now find the distance L in. So the distance of L in would be -4 plus 2 all squared plus 1 plus 3 all squared. Now this will be 20. And this will give us 2√5. Now that we can plug here. And from here, we just rely on our calculator, and that should give you 20. It's 5. √5 times √5 is 5, and then times 4, which is 20 units squared. Now you can use the area rule. You definitely can use the area rule. It should work. But because you have a 90-degree triangle, I'd suggest that you use half base multiplied by height. The area rule can get a little bit confusing, because now you are going to have to use an alternative angle there. Sorry. Somebody is talking about 3.6. So for 3.6, you just need to, if you keep losing marks on these kind of questions, what you need to do is you need to draw that triangle for yourself, right? Put it properly. So I like putting my 90 degrees in the corner, in the bottom left corner like that. Now it simply means that I have to put this triangle in order, which means NL, just like this. So NL, and then I think the other one was S. Then plug in what you have, right? What did we have? We had the distance of SL as 4√5. 4√5. Okay, now what we didn't have is NL, and we calculated that to be 2√5 using the distance formula. Now we know we have a 90-degree triangle. The area of a triangle is just half of the base multiplied by the height. Okay, well, if that's the case, then what you just need to do is substitute. The base can be 4√5 and the height can be 2√5. Then you get 20 units squared. Okay, moving on, I'm just checking our time there. Calculate the coordinate of P, which is equidistant from L, S, and N. Okay, so equidistant means that for us to get to P, maybe P is somewhere here. This distance must be equal to that distance, which must be equal to this distance. So these are equal. Okay? We must understand that part first. Now, what we can do is, let's say, we have, let's just see, hang on 1 second. I want to see if they give us anything about the coordinate of P. No, we just know that it is equidistant. Okay, so what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to say, because I just said P is a point there, I'm going to say P has coordinates A and B. I don't know what they are, right? But what we know is that they are equidistant, meaning that PL must be equal to PA. Please make sure that you follow each and every step, right? Because of the equidistant part. Now, this simply means I can say that minus 4 minus A all squared plus 1 minus B all squared is equal to minus 2 minus A all squared plus minus 3 minus B all squared. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Daniel just asked a question then.
So the coordinates of P is where the three lines intersected. Yes, that's where they intersect, and they are all equal to each other, those lines. So LP is equal to NP, which is equal to PS. Okay. Now carrying on there. So cleaning this up, we can have our A minus 2B is equal to minus 1. Remember, don't bring the squared in. Remember, the squared means 2 brackets. Okay? Now, I'll say this is equation number 1. Then what I want to do next is I want to look at the other case where I will say that PS is equal to PN because they are equidistant. Right? If that's the case, then you will see that you have another equation. 4A plus 2B is equal to 6. Now let's call this equation 2. Now we can solve for these simultaneously. So A is equal to 2B minus 1, meaning that we have 4 into 2B minus 1 plus 2B equals to 6. Eight B minus 4 plus 2B equals to 6. 10B is equal to 10, then B would be equal to 1. And then to find A, we're just going to say A is also 1. Now we have our A and B, which we said are our coordinates of P, meaning that we have 1 and 1 for the coordinates of P. Yep, that's also fine. If I make A subject to the formula and substitute into above equation, that should work perfectly. If you guys have done it differently and you got 1 and 1 is your coordinates, I'm happy with that. You should get all the marks for that. Okay, without any wasting of time, I'm going to carry on. Calculate the size of LPS, angle P. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and use, let me just look at it. Give me a second. I'll tell you what I want to use. I'm going to use the cosine rule. So I will say that 4 root 5 all squared is equal to this distance. Just give me a second. Okay, the distance of 5 squared plus 5 squared minus 2 multiplied by 5 multiplied by 5, and then cos of LPS. Okay, these are the distances which you can calculate because we have the coordinates of P, we have the coordinates of L, and we also have the coordinates of S there. So it shouldn't be too much of a problem for you to solve there. Now, 20 cos LP is must be equal to, do this way. Because LPS must be equal to, just going to skip steps, 3/5 negative. Then calculator work. Shift cos, and LPS must give you 126,87 degrees. Yes, Leloko, you're absolutely correct. Since LP is equal to PS, the triangle is an isosceles triangle. Hence, we have 5. You can just calculate only one of them. Okay, moving on. Question 4. In the diagram, the circle with center O has the equation x squared plus y squared is equal to 20. And then G is the center of the larger circle. A common tangent touches the circles at D and F respectively, such that D has P n minus 2 and lies in the 4th quadrant. Given that D is equal to, D has coordinates P minus 2, lies on the smaller circle, show that P is equal to minus 4. There shouldn't be too much of a problem because we can simply say that x squared plus y squared is equal to 20. All right, now let's substitute. I'll simply say P squared plus minus 2 squared is equal to 20. And then P squared is equal to 16. Then P equals to plus or minus 4. Remember, whenever we take the square root, we have to say plus or minus. Now, what did they say? Show that P is I just want to see something. Lies in the 4th quadrant. Then if it lies in the 4th quadrant, P is equal to positive 4. As easy as that. Now, E, 6 and 2 is the midpoint of DF. Determine the coordinates of F. So that shouldn't be a problem. I'm just going to separate them. I'm going to say, they said E is the midpoint of DF. So I'm going to say x of d plus x of f over 2 must be equal to x of e. On the other side, I'm going to do the same thing. Y of d plus y of f over 2 must be equal to y of e. Okay. Now, let's substitute. So we can say that 4 plus x of f over 2 is equal to 6. And then x of f must give us 8. 12 minus 4 to give us 8. Then on the other side, we're going to do the same thing. Minus 2 plus y of f over 2 is equal to 2. And y of f is equal to 6. Yeah, if I try to display both the diagram and the answer, it's going to take, it's going to be very, very small because I have to zoom all the way out. Now it's very small. You can't even read what they're saying there. But I'll just try to scroll back.
That's
a story of my.
Yes, dear?
Can you check on the Q&A there? There's a question. I don't know if you answered it. The last one.
Okay. Okay, I was in the chat. We'll go to the Q&A.
So it says, what does equidistant mean?
Okay, so equidistant, okay, that's actually an old question. So the equidistant term means that they are equal in distance. So if you have a point, so let's say maybe we have A, B, C, then maybe we have the point Y here. So when we say that Y is equidistant from A, B, and C, we simply mean that the distance from Y to B, right, is equal to the distance from Y to A, which is also equal to the distance Y to C. That's what equidistant means. They are equal in their distance. Okay, now moving on, determine the equation of the common tangent df in the form y is equal to mx plus c. So let us try to find the gradient. So let's find the gradient of dE. Maybe let me just do it here. I will say this is, we found these points. Okay, perfect. So this will be minus 2 over 4 minus 6. And this is going to give us 2. That's the gradient of dE. Now we can say y minus 2 is equal to 2 into x minus 4. Then y is equal to 2x minus 10. And this is the equation. That makes sense. Now calculate the value of t. Okay, let me just write down that equation here so that we know we did this question. 2x minus 10. The value of t. Okay, so that's the intercept. So what we can do is we know that these are perpendicular to each other. So we have the 90 degrees there because we have a tangent and a radius. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say the gradient So the gradient of FG is equal to -1/2. I took it from this part here. Remember that they're perpendicular, so the product of their gradients needs to give you -1. So I can then say -1/2 is equal to I think I found these coordinates. Just give me a second. It's 8 and 6. There we go. So I can then say 0 minus 6 over t minus 8. We got those coordinates here. Then -1/2 is equal to -6 over t minus 8. So minus into t minus 8 is equal to -12, and t will definitely give you 20. Okay, I acknowledge the question in the chat, the notes of the circle relation to one another. Okay, I should have the summary notes. I'll see if I can maybe upload them, or if I can just share my screen, then you guys can view them. Now we are on 5 point, okay, let me just write this one down so that I know we dealt with it. T is equal to 20. Determine the equation of the largest circle in the form that, okay, so remember we have F, which has coordinates 8 and 6, and then we have 20 and 0. Now we can calculate the radius. So the radius R is equal to the square root. Let me use R squared, because in any case, it will be squared on the question. So R squared is equal to 8 minus 20 all squared plus 6 minus 0 all squared. Then calculator work, our R squared should give us 180. Now, once we have that, we can simply say x minus 20 all squared plus y squared, because y minus 0 is equal to 180. Right, now that's not the form that they asked. They wanted it as x squared plus bx, which is perfectly fine because we just need to FOIL that out. So x squared minus 40x plus 20, that will give us, I think it's 400. And then plus y squared is equal to 180. And x squared plus y squared minus 40x plus 220 is equal to 0. So x squared plus y squared minus 40x plus 220. Now, the smaller circle must be translated by k units along the x-axis to touch the larger circle internally. Calculate the possible values of k. So the smaller circle must be translated. For it to touch the bigger circle, we know it must move where? It must move to the right. okay? And for it to move to the right, okay, let's just see, it's saying to touch it internally. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to look at their radii, right? So the radius of the smaller circle was 20, so we can say r is equal to 2√5 because it's 4 times 5. Take out the 4. Now I'll say SC for small circle, and then radius of larger circle will be equal to 6√5. The calculator will do that for you. Okay, now once we have those, what I want us to look at is the point G now. Okay, so we know that the point G has coordinates 20 and 0. So if we say that G has coordinates 20 and 0, then we can say that K is equal to 20 minus what? Minus 6√5 minus 2√5, but in brackets. Right. Now from there, it's just calculator work because we're going to have 20 minus 4√5. And that will give you 11,06 units. Right. Now, that's one of them. Alternatively, K must be equal to 20 plus 6√5 plus 2√5. You must understand the intersection of circles. Okay, and it's just a matter of adding. So this will be 20 plus minus, sorry, a mistake, minus, yeah, subtracting them. Just a mistake. Minus 4√5, and this will give you 28,94 units.
Pepper?
Yes.
There's a normal quiz that says, may you please explain 4.6 again? And Mbasa says, is there a way I can get the full recording?
Yeah, I think the recordings will be up on our website. I think maybe tomorrow this lesson should be uploaded, or sometime. If it's not tomorrow, Wednesday, the latest, it will be uploaded. Okay, so looking at 4.6, right? We need to understand what they mean, right? So they need to touch internally, right? So if they touch internally, what does that mean? It means that you must remember those conditions that you have if circles are not touching. So let me do that. If these circles are not touching, we know that the distance of center 1, center 2 will be greater than R1 plus R2. Now, if they are touching at a single point, we know that the distance of center 1, center 2 is equal to R1 plus R2. Now, if they're touching internally, it simply means that the distance C1, C2 will be less than R1 plus R2. Those are the conditions that you need to remember, right? I will share the notes. If you weren't with us when we did analytical geometry, we did discuss this, but I will go through, I will share those notes with you guys so that you remember which property you need to use. Right? And that's what I used today to calculate which one it is. Okay, for the sake of time, we're left with 30 minutes and we still have quite a lot to do. I am going to move on. Question 5, 5.1.1. Without using a calculator, determine each of the following. Okay, cos of beta, given that sine of beta is equal to 1 over 3. So sine of beta is equal to 1 over 3, which is equal to y over r. Okay, now looking at our cast diagram, we know that sine is positive in there and in there because 1 over 3 is a positive number. And they're saying beta is an element between 90 and 270 from there to there, meaning that our diagram is definitely in the second quadrant where this side will be positive 1 and this will be 3. So for us to find x, we know that x is equal to 3 squared minus 1 squared, right? Plus or minus. So this will be negative root of 8 or negative 2 root 2. Okay. Somebody's saying, so please explain the difference between 90 to 270 and 90 and 270 all inclusive. Okay, so the only difference is the inclusion, right? So this one, we are using soft brackets because it means that beta cannot be 90, right? And beta cannot be 270, but it can be 90, 0.000000001. So it is just over 90. And then it simply means that it is 269,9999999. That is valid, but it can't be 270. Right? But when we said that beta is an element from 90 all the way to 270, this is included, meaning that 90 is an answer. It can be an answer. Also, 270 can be an answer. I'm hoping that makes sense. That is the difference between the two. The soft bracket does not include, and the hard bracket does include. So when we say maybe x is greater than 4, we simply mean, so x is an element from 4 to infinity, soft bracket. But once we say x is greater or equal to 4, we need to put a hard bracket around the 4, but never on infinity. That's what that part means there. Okay, moving on. Now, cos of beta will simply say this will be the y value, sorry, the x value minus 2 root 2 over 3. Right? Now, if you've done it in a different way, that's perfectly fine. Now, sine of 2 beta, that shouldn't be too much of a problem because we know that this is the same as 2 sine beta cos beta. 2 into, we know that sine is 1 over 3. And then minus 2 root 2 over 3. Right. Then you can just plug that into the calculator and you are going to get minus 2 root 2 over 3. Yes, before you say they said without the use of a calculator, you still can use a calculator, but remember you have to show all the steps and don't write decimals. That's what they mean there. You still can use a calculator, provided you write all the steps and surds instead of decimals, and fractions are what we need. Sorry, I'm giving you the incorrect one here. I see my mistake if you're correcting me. So this must be minus 4 root 2 over 9. Thank you for the correction if you've corrected me. Now, next question. Cos of 450 degrees minus beta. Okay, so what do we do with angles that are greater than 360? We have to make them smaller. So cos of, yes, dear.
Before you proceed there, how do you have a question in the chat?
So please redo the diagram. I missed the part of finding x. So I'll quickly explain it. We said sine of beta is 1 over 3, and we need to look at our cast diagram. Where is sine positive? It's in the first and it's in the second, right? So I said first, second. Now they said beta is an element between 90 and 270. Which quadrant has 2 ticks? It is the second quadrant. Now we know that sine is a y over r. So we just drew our triangle, we plugged in the y value, which is 1, and r, which is 3. Now, what do we do from there? We use Pythag because we know that x squared plus y squared is equal to r squared. What do we have? We have y and we have r. So I'll say x squared is equal to 3, which is squared, and then minus 2, no, my mistake, sorry, minus 1 squared. Then you find x. But because we are in the second quadrant, x is negative. So if x is negative, then it means we're just going to discard the positive x answer that we find on our calculator. Hope that is clear. Now, 450 minus 360 will give you 90, then minus beta. So we just said 450 minus 360. Because whenever we have something bigger than 360, we subtract 360 from it. Now, cos of 90 minus. What do we know about that? We know that that'll simply be in the first quadrant. What do we know about cos in the first quadrant? In the first quadrant, it is positive, but it has to change to sine of beta. And we know when we started, they gave us sine of beta, which is 1 over 3. Okay. Given that cos to the power of 4 plus sine squared multiplied by cos squared all over 1 plus sine squared, prove that it is equal to 1 minus sine squared. Okay, so remember, whenever you deal with trig proofs, you pick the side that has a lot of work. Which side has a lot of work? It is the left-hand side. So we can say that the left-hand side, so simply do that. This is equal to LHS. Now, what I want to do immediately is I want to take out a common factor of cos squared. Cos squared x plus sine squared x all over 1 plus sine x. Okay, now once we have that, we can say cos squared x into 1, then 1 plus sine x. Because cos squared x plus sine squared x gives us 1. And I did show you guys where it comes from. Now we know that cos squared is the same as 1 minus sine squared x. 1 plus sine x. Then 1 minus sine x, 1 plus sine x. 1 plus sine x. Because this is the difference of two squares. Now what cancels? This and that cancel. Then what are we left with? 1 minus sine x, which is equal to the right-hand side. I hope we are all here there. Okay, now, next question. For what value or values of x in that interval, x an element from 0 to 360, is that undefined? Okay, now we must understand the difference between undefined and non-real. So for non-real, that's when you have a negative number under the square root. Are we all together? But now we don't have any square roots. and we're talking about undefined. Undefined would simply mean that the denominator must be equal to 0. Okay, so what is the denominator? It's 1 plus sine x. So we'll say that sine of x plus 1 is equal to 0. Then sine of x is equal to -1, because that's undefined. Denominator must be equal to 0 for undefined. Now, shift sign, your reference angle will be equal to 90 degrees. Right? And then the other one will simply be x is equal to 270. Because if you substitute 270 in there as well, it won't work out. You can just try it on your calculator. I hope that is clear. Now, write down the minimum value of the function defined by that. Okay, so this can be very confusing, right? But what do we know about the very same equation? We've simplified it, remember. We know that this thing is the same as 1 minus sine x. We did prove it, remember. Prove that that is equal to 1 minus sine x. That's what we're going to use. Right. Now, this simply means we have a negative sign graph that has been shifted up by 1 unit. Yes, dear?
My apologies there. It is asking, how did you get to 70?
Okay, so what we're doing is sorry, I'm doing it wrong. That's a very wrong cost diagram. There we go. We have sine of x is equal to -1, meaning that sine is negative, right? Which quadrant are we at? It is going to be in this one or that one. Oh, where's this number right? So it's either going to be in the T or the C quadrant because we want sine to be negative. Okay, now if 90 is our reference angle, what do we know about sine? We'll say reference angle plus k multiplied by 360, right? If your k is 1 and you multiply by 360, so just give me a second, let me sort this thing out. So we'll say 90 degrees plus k 360. K is an element of integers. Now substitute k to be 1. 90. Sorry. Yes, if it's negative 90 plus k, which is 1, then multiplied by 360. 360 minus 90, that'll give you 270. Don't forget that part there. K is an element of integers. So we substituted k to be 1. Okay, now we were trying to find the minimum value. So for us to find the minimum value, I lost myself. Okay, perfect. Now we must forget about this one firstly. Let's forget about this guy. Sine x, what is the minimum value and the maximum value? So we know that minimum will be -1 and your maximum will be +1 for that graph. Okay. Now, what are we doing? We are shifting this graph by 1 unit up. So +1, +1. What will our minimum be? It will be 0. What will our maximum be? It will be 2. But what are they looking for? The minimum, meaning that our min equals to 0. Okay. Now, given that cos of A minus B equals to cos of A multiplied by cos of B plus sine of A multiplied by sine of B, use the above identity to deduce that sine of A minus B is equal to that. Okay, so let's do it this way. If you have a different way of going about it, that's perfectly fine. But I'm just going to say that cos of 90, then I'll say minus A minus B is equal to sine of A minus B. Because cos 90 minus takes us back to sine, and they're all positive in that first quadrant. Hope we're clear there. Now, it's just a matter of simplifying. So I will simply say that I have cos of 90 minus A plus B. Okay, now once you have something like that, we can rely on our, so this will be the first angle, and that, so this will be angle 1, that will be angle 2. We know that we can say cos of 90 minus A multiplied by cos of B. Ooh, I'm messing it up. Let me just go back and fix it. Otherwise, it's not going to work because they give me minus and I'm using a plus. So rather I say this, let me just fix it. Rather I say minus B and use it like that. So just say 90 minus A, which is 90 minus A, and then 90 minus a negative B. Now that should work because it does resemble what they gave me there. Okay, now I can simply say cos 90 minus A, that's the first angle. We're just relying on the top part. We're just relying on this. Cos of the first angle multiplied by cos of the second angle. So this will be cos of minus B. Then it says plus sine of the first angle, which is 90 minus A, and then multiply by sine of negative B. Hoping we're all together there. Now, this we know will become sine of A cos of B plus cos of A into negative sine of B. Then this is simply sine of A cos of B minus cos of A sine of B, because the negative came in front. Okay, somebody's asking me to go back to 5.2.3. So 5.2.3, I was saying that we know that this is equal to 1 minus sine of x, right? Now we know that this is a shift. We ignore the shift and we look at the mother graph. The mother graph has a minimum at -1 and +1. Okay, so minimum, -1, maximum, +1. Now, they said that we are shifting it. If we now look at the shift is 1 up. So we simply add that 1 there. So -1 plus 1 gives you 0. 1 plus 1 gives you 2. If this was 2 minus sine x, we were going to add a 2 here instead of a 1 so that we can get our maximum and minimum. Okay. Now, quickly relooking at 5.3.1. What we know is we can use our co-functions, right? So I simply said cos of 90 minus alpha minus beta, or a minus b, is equal to sine of a minus b. Look at this step here. That should make sense because we know that cos of 90 minus b is equal to sine of b, which is exactly what we did. Right? Why did we do that? Because we want to find sine of a minus b. That is why we introduced the co-function. That's the first step. If you understand that part, we are winning. Now, what we did is we said 90 minus a, that's the part that we have here. Then we say 90 minus b. So here's the minus outside and the negative b. Now we have the first and the second angle, cos of the first angle and the second angle. We can use the above. Remember, first angle and second angle, and expand it because that's what's given. If you expand it using this, you are going to land here. Now, you know that cos of 90 minus gives you sine. Cos of negative b is just positive. It's just cos of positive b. Sine 90 minus a just gives you cos of a. Then sine of negative b remains sine of negative b. Now, if the negative multiplies in front, it will change to negative. Sine cos is just sine cos. Cos and sine, just cos and sine. Hope that is clear. Then the question in the chat. So the max and min always 1 and -1. Only for the mother graphs, only for cos and sine. So if you have cos of x, then what is the coefficient of cos? It's 1. That is why your max is plus minus whatever this number is. If we had 2, maybe sine of x, then our min was going to be -2. Our max was going to be +2. So it's not always 1 and -1. It depends what the coefficient is. And that's how you get your range in any case. Okay, now 5.3.2. Hence or otherwise determine the general solution of the equation sine 40x cos of x minus cos 48 sine x is equal to cos of 2x. All right, so what we need to remember is that this, we can say it is sine of 48 degrees minus x, right? This is equal to cos of 2x. How did I get it? If you look at the formula sheet, we are going back instead of expanding. We are using this to go back. Now, we want the same ratio. So I will say sine of 48 degrees minus x is equal to sine of, I need to say 90 minus 2x. Okay. Now, if that's the case, then we can simply say the angles themselves have to be exactly the same. So 48 degrees minus x is equal to 90 minus 2x plus k 360. Right. It's not only that one, or it must be 48 minus x is equal to negative 90 minus 2x. And then k 360. K is an element of integers. You must put k as an element of integers. Okay. Now, once we have something like that, it's easy for us to solve. Here we're going to have x is equal to 42 degrees plus k 360. On the other side, we are going to have minus 3x is equal to 42 degrees plus k 360, and then x is equal to minus 14 minus k 120. If you divide throughout by minus 3, then k is an element of integers. If you used the cost side, that's perfectly fine. But I mean, if you used cost, some people would have gone this way. They would have said cos of 90 minus 48 degrees plus x is equal to cos of 2x. That will also work out. Okay, let me see if there are questions. Yes, we include the negative sign because of the quadrant. You are absolutely correct. The cast diagram is very, very important. Okay, then the last question there, simplify to a single trig ratio. Then, let's say we have sine of 2x plus x plus sine x over cos of 2x, can't do anything for now, then plus 1. Now it's going to be a very long sum because I have compound angle there. So I'll say this is sine 2x. Yes, dear.
Mulebogeng has their hand up there.
Okay, you can unmute them. Mulebogeng, you can go ahead.
Sir,
Yes.
can you hear me?
Please fix your mic and then talk to me.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Can you please go back to 5.3.2? I want to understand how you got sin 90 minus 2x from the cos 2x.
Okay, I'm seeing that it's the same question in the chat as well. Is it this side here that is problematic? This side?
No,
Which one?
it's after cos 2x, the one after cos 2x. The sin
So
90 minus 2x.
okay.
Yes.
All right. So firstly, if we have sine of 90 minus x, what does this change to? Doesn't this change to cos of x?
It does.
Right. Now now it simply means that cos of 2x is the same as sine 90 minus 2x, because this changes if we go in that direction. Sine 90 minus 2x changes back to cos of 2x.
Oh,
I went in the
okay,
reverse.
now I understand. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And then, the general solution from step 3 going down. Okay, so from step 3, what we did is, because we have sine here and we have sine there, we drop the sides and we simply equate the angles. Because the ratios are exactly the same, it means that the angles must be equal to each other. Otherwise, this doesn't work. That is why I dropped the sides and I said this angle here must be equal to 90 minus 2x. Okay.
Okay,
Now,
now I understand.
okay, all right, perfect. I'm just answering the question in the chat now.
Okay,
Now,
thank you.
you're welcome. Now we have 48 minus x is equal to 90 minus 2x. Right. Now, there we must still solve for x. So we'll take the 2 over to the other side. Minus x plus 2x will give you x. And the 48 over to the other side. 90 minus 48 will give you 42 degrees. plus k multiplied by 360. K is an element of integers. Okay, now we must consider all the quadrants, the positive side and the negative side. That is why we said it's either positive or it's negative. Okay, that's why we just put a negative sign in front. Now, if you put a negative sign in front, then you do the math, you are going to get an alternative answer being minus 14 minus k multiplied by 120. That's what we did there. I'm hoping that is clear. Okay, now we are left with a minute and a few seconds. I wanted to do this problem, but I'm going to leave it out. We will definitely look at it next time. I just want to give you guys the notes for analytical geometry that you guys requested. Let me see if I can copy this. Just a second. I was trying to paste it in the chat, but it doesn't look like it is pasting. Let me paste everything. Let me see if it works now. Okay, perfect. This is what I wanted to give you guys. So the intersection of circles is this part here. Maybe you can take a screenshot because I'm trying to paste it in the chat and it's not pasting. I'll see what I can do. Maybe on our website, we'll put some of these notes there as well for you guys. But for now, you can just take a screenshot of that intersection of circles. Try to zoom in. This is the maximum. Let me hold it there. So do take a screenshot. Okay, hope that you guys took the screenshot of those notes there. They are quite important. You see, they did ask it in a final. So the paper that we were doing is the November 2023 paper. So it is last year's paper. Okay, we will carry on with it on Wednesday when I see you guys for maths. But if you do physical sciences, tomorrow, Mr. Rangaga will take you through, I think it is paper 2 sides. If it's paper 1, you'll just forgive me. I mixed up the papers. I don't know which one is coming first. But I think you might do paper 2 so that we can at least just get it out of the way. All right. Otherwise, I think we can definitely end here for today so that you guys can have a bit of a rest. And then we shall see you tomorrow